So there's wood on the table, so that can only mean one thing. We're going to get on with the first build of this new workshop, which is quite a simple build in effect. It's going to be a planter box. So, as with all things woodworking, you have to start with cutting wood up into the right sizes. Now, what you won't hear me doing is saying anything about the sizes that I'm using for this planter box, because everybody's planter boxes, you want to make them the size that you want, not what I want. What they don't, a planter box isn't, a fine piece of furniture. It doesn't need to be precise, but what it does do, or what it does need, is to be consistent. So I've set up a little bit of a stock block. All I've got to do is cut 8 legs ready for the 2 planter boxes. I will show you this. I'll go through a video actually on the Festool miter saw. The cut on it is smoother than George Clooney in a coffee advert. It is absolutely brilliant, but we'll show you a little bit more about that as time goes on. Right, I'll get the rest of the legs cut up. I won't bore you with that. I'll come back to you in a moment. So I moved the stop block onto the other side because, again, it's all about consistency, not necessarily accuracy. You want to be accurate, of course you do, but it's not one of those fine pieces of furniture where it needs to be measured to the millimetre. What I've done is I've changed this angle on the miter to 7 degrees in my case. I put up the stop block so we're working at the same cut on each one of the legs, and then basically I'm just going to cut some angles on the top to make a pyramid effect. First cut, just turn it round. Second cut. Same again. And the final 4th cut. I can show you. So what you end up with is, see if I can get it in there, is, oh, it's not great for light, is it? But a little detail on the wood at the top, just a little pyramid effect. So miter saw stationed up back to 0, and then going to make a shadow line about 3 inches, 4 inches up. We'll see where do I want that. Let's have a little look. Yeah, that should about do it, just about there. So if I'm going to be consistent again, move the stop block up. No fancy stock locks, just a little bit of wood. Now, the next part of this is the trick to this is on my miter saw. You can do this with a saw, a hand saw. You could all sorts of things you can do with that. Do a router if you so felt like it. But it's just to create a shadow line. Now what I want to do is I want to just make sure that that's not going too deep. Just a little cut, just about there. That's perfect. So now when I make the shadow line, if I were to cut that now, you're going to get a groove that comes upwards. So I'm going to get a little bit of sacrificial wood, put behind it. And now when it cuts through, it'll go all the way through, rather than that having a curve in the shadow line, within the shadow line itself. And all that does, again, see if I can show you, just creates a shadow line within that piece of wood there, the leg. And this is going to be the bottom of the leg. But that bottom part of the leg now, I need to taper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut at angles, all four sides, from the shadow line, slightly in, so that it brings the leg into a taper. This time what I've done is I've put the stop block onto the side of the machine, of the miter saw, and I've turned the table around to 7 degrees the other side. Now I can see from the shadow formed on the shadow line formed by the saw, and then what we've ended up with is a nice little tapered leg. Okay, all four legs done. I'm going to put them aside for the moment, and we're going to have to get on with the cutting. So I'm going to make 4 side panels now, and each panel has 6 pieces within those panels. So I'll get on with the cutting of those, and we'll take it to the next stage. Okay, I've got some 3 3/4 by 3/4 inch wood. I put 2 strips together so I can cut 2 at the same time. If I were a real YouTuber, then what I would do is do some sexy slow-mo of the blade cutting wood. But I don't think you need to see that, in all honesty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on with cutting some wood, and then I'll show you how I'm going to be putting the panels together. Okie dokie, so let's start laying this out to make up the panels. Some stiles and some rails. Okay. Now, with the measurements of these measurements here are the exact width that I want my planter boxes, which is 19 1/4 inches, but it's 490 mils basically. Okay. Now you'll notice that once I start spacing these out, there's going to be a little bit left over for cutting off. Now, why have I done that? Well, the reason I've done that is because these are the correct length but these don't actually marry up. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a little bit on either side so that I can cut off evenly. Then these two pieces here will be of equal depth, so it won't look odd. And I'll be doing that on all 4 panels. So everything should work out pretty much perfectly once I run a saw down the end of that. Next stage, now I'm going to be using dominoes now. It's a bit of an overkill for a plant, I've got to say, but I've bought the machine, so I'm going to damn well use it. It's a lot of money to buy, so why would I just leave it on the shelf? You can use pocket screws, you could use dowels, you can just use glue if you want to on these, but to be honest with you, it's better to have a solid fixing of some sort in place, okay? But whatever fixing you float your boat, then that's the way forward for you. Just giving a rough idea for the domino, and then I'll set the domino up and we will whiz through these in no time. Then we've got 4 of them to do. Okay, let's get the domino set up. So I'm going to pop in a few dominoes. I'm not going to explain too much about the domino machine, but I am actually going to make a video about this machine and whether or not it's worth buying one. Spoiler alert to that video, yes it is. So I'm just going to pop some domino holes into these pieces, and then we will put it all, stopping it all together. Right you are, so dominoes fitted, both ends, just a matter of popping this together and seeing whether we've achieved anything. No problem getting it in the hole, always been a problem. Putting together Lego. Excellent. So far the lines are lining up, so hopefully won't have made a fool of myself. Quite tight fitting. A little bit of gentle persuasion and a little bit of sanding on there, but these are pretty damn perfect. The good thing about that's better. The good thing about this domino system is that it makes you feel like you're a proper carpenter, because everything is nice and level, all the spacing is correct. This one I've put a little bit looser so that I could adjust it, which is another way of saying I made a mistake and the hole's a little bit bigger. But it's all worked out quite nicely. I'm not going to glue that up yet, but basically that's the panel, and that will fit the legs once I've trimmed the edges. Okay, as I said, I'm only trimming the edges because I've made these to the exact width that I wanted, and then that way if I trim off a bit on each side, these two panels will be equal. I think I'm just repeating myself there, but it's worth noting. Okay, on to panels 2, 3 and 4. So with all 4 sides done now, it's just a matter of getting these trimmed off so they're all the same size, then we can get on with the legs. Four sides in place, and bring them back into play. 4 legs. Mark them up and get them dominoed out, and we can start putting this together. Okay, a day later, because I forgot that I needed to go and get my hair cut. So I went off to do that. Got home, asked my wife if I looked like a movie star. She said I did. I'm not too sure that Shrek is actually a movie star, but I'll take it. So we're going to get these panels moved on to, or affixed to the legs. Again, I'm going to be using dominoes. And what I'm doing for this is I'm just spacing it out from the top of the corner with a little spacer block, which basically is just something that fits the bill. And then we'll get some lines drawn in. Going to do that for all 4 legs, all 4 panels, and then we're going to get them dominoed up. So, just loads more of those to do. So measure up for this side, go that way, measure the 2 sides. So I don't actually just do one side at a time. I do normally measure up once, but for the purpose of the video, I've just done this one side just to give you an idea, and then I'll crack on and start putting this together. Okay, so all dominoed up, all glued up, it's dried off. Just a couple of jobs left to do, and that's basically to put a base inside, just a little bit of beading around the bottom and on the inside, and then put some scrap wood, making sure that there's some holes for drainage, obviously. A little bit of sanding and then some stain. I'm not going to bore you with that because that's not what the video is about. What I'm going to do is I will put up a shot on screen of it now finished, and hopefully one of it outside of the house with a plant in it. I've got to get on with the others because others are knocking on my door for them. So I've got about, I think it's about 8 to build. So I'm going to whip them out and see how quickly I can do that. Next project is going to be the bench build. I think I've mentioned that before. However, there's a bit of prep work to do for that. So the next actual video is going to be on the Festool domino, and whether whether or not you should buy one. Okay, until the next video, take good care.